It was a cold and windy night on the edge of New Terra Colony. The stars above were hidden behind dark clouds. Rain tapped gently on the roof of a small, broken-down house. Inside, Jack sat at the old wooden table with his little daughter, Luna. They shared a small bowl of soup. Steam rising in the cold air, Jack looked tired. His hands rough from long hours fixing machines at the dock. His back hurt and his mind was heavy. But he smiled at Luna. She was only 6 years old, full of questions and dreams, even in hard times. Her laughter made the world a little softer. Jack was a single father. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago. She had died suddenly in a shipyard accident, and since then, life had been hard. He worked long shifts, barely earning enough for food, rent, and Luna's medicine. But he never complained. Because Luna was all he had left, their small home was cold and cracked. But full of love, that night as the storm outside grew stronger. Jack heard a strange sound, 3 soft knocks on the door. Slow and gentle, he stood up, confused, wondering who would come at this hour. They didn't have any friends nearby, and no one ever visited them. He told Luna to stay back, then slowly opened the door. What he saw made him freeze. An elderly alien woman stood there. Soaked from the rain, she wore a long, dark robe. Torn and muddy, her face was wrinkled, her eyes glowing softly with sadness. She held her arm, which was bleeding, and her breathing was weak. Jack had seen many aliens in the colony before, but never one like her. There was something ancient about her, something powerful, but also broken, like a star that had fallen from the sky. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Please." Just one night, Jack felt a strange pull in his chest. Like his heart recognized her, but he had never seen her before, had he? For a few seconds, he hesitated, thinking about Luna, about safety, but something about the old alien felt peaceful. She looked tired, not dangerous, just lost and cold. He stepped aside and let her in. She walked slowly, her body shaking from the cold. Luna peeked from behind the kitchen wall, her big eyes wide. The alien woman looked at her and smiled gently. Luna didn't seem afraid. Instead, she walked up and offered her small blanket. Jack was surprised, but something in the room changed. It felt warmer, calmer, like the storm outside could no longer touch them. Jack gave the alien a towel and some water. She sat near the heater, quiet and still, her eyes closed. Jack asked her questions, but she didn't say much. Only her name, Elia, she said softly. When he asked where she came from, she just smiled and said, "Far." Far away, he noticed something strange. Her wounds were healing quickly. Too quickly for someone so old. But he didn't ask again. That night, after Luna went to bed, Jack sat near the old alien. He couldn't stop thinking about her face. Her voice, there was something familiar. Something he couldn't explain. He tried to stay awake. But sleep pulled him down slowly, later, in the middle of the night. Jack woke up suddenly. The heater had gone out. And the room was colder now. He looked at the alien woman. Still sitting in the same place, she was talking in her sleep. Whispering softly, he leaned closer, trying to hear. Then, her words stopped his heart. "The stars remember your kindness." "Jack," she whispered. His eyes widened. How did she know his name? He had never told her. He stood still, his body frozen. He looked at her face. Now glowing faintly with a soft silver light, she wasn't just some old alien. There was something else going on, something big. But what? And why now? Why here? Jack didn't sleep again that night. He kept watching the old alien, wondering what she truly was. The storm outside slowly faded, but inside, new questions were rising like thunder in his heart. He didn't know it yet. But that one choice to open the door would change everything. Not just for him, not just for Luna, but for the whole galaxy. The sun rose slowly over the quiet colony. A soft orange light spilled through the dusty windows of Jack's home. He had barely slept, his eyes heavy. But his mind full of questions. Elia, the old alien, was still sitting by the heater, her eyes now open and calm. She looked as if she had been awake for hours, waiting, watching, thinking. Jack made a small breakfast, some bread and warm tea. He offered some to Elia, who accepted it with a small nod. Luna woke up soon after, rubbing her eyes and yawning when she saw Elia. She smiled and ran up to her. "Good morning, Granny Star," she said with a giggle. Jack was surprised by the name, Granny Star. He asked, smiling a little. "She looks like a grandma from the sky," Luna said proudly. Elia chuckled, a soft, warm sound that made the room feel brighter. Throughout the day, Elia stayed in the house. She moved slowly, but helped wherever she could. She cleaned dishes without being asked, folded Luna's clothes, and even fixed the heater. Jack watched her closely. She knew small things about human life that most aliens didn't. She knew how to use the kettle, how to sweep the floor, even how to hum an old Earth lullaby. "How do you know all this?" Jack asked her once. Elia smiled but didn't answer. Her eyes, though old, were clear and full of stories every time Jack looked into them. He felt like she was hiding something big. That night, after dinner, Jack decided to check her bag. He didn't want to be rude, but something inside told him he needed answers. While Elia and Luna were playing with a puzzle in the other room, he quietly opened the old cloth bag she had brought. Inside, he found only one item, a small glowing pendant. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and its surface was carved with symbols he didn't understand. But in the center was something that made his breath stop, a silver circle, with a line through it exactly like the pendant his wife used to wear. He hadn't seen that symbol since she died. His hands shook as he picked it up. It wasn't just similar, it was the same. His wife had always said it was a gift from someone she trusted long ago. She never explained more. Jack had thought it was just a strange design. But now it was here, in this alien's bag. He quickly placed it back and closed the bag. His heart was racing. He needed answers now, more than ever. Later that night, when Luna had gone to bed, Jack sat down across from Elia. He looked her in the eyes and said, "Where did you get that pendant?" She didn't speak for a long time. Then, very slowly, she said, "From a woman who saved my life." Jack leaned forward. "Was her name?" Emily. Elia nodded. "Yes, she was brave, kind, and stronger than she knew." Jack felt like the air had left the room. "That was my wife," he said, his voice shaking. Elia looked at him with deep sadness. "I know," she whispered. "I came here because of her." She explained that many years ago, during a secret war in deep space, she had been captured and left for dead. A human woman, Millie, had found her, hidden her, and helped her escape. They had formed a bond, a deep friendship built on trust. But when the war ended, they went their separate ways. Elia had promised to return one day if Emily ever needed help. "But she died," Jack said quietly. Elia nodded. "Yes. And now her daughter is in danger." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Luna, what danger?" Elia didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood up and walked over to Luna's room. She opened the door slowly and looked inside. Luna was asleep, holding a small stuffed toy. Elia whispered something Jack didn't hear, and her eyes glowed for a moment. She closed the door and turned to Jack. "There is something special about her, Jack," she said. "She is not just your daughter. She is more." Jack felt dizzy, his mind spinning with questions. "What do you mean?" "She's just a little girl." Elia shook her head. "No. She is the key to something ancient, something powerful. Jack stepped back, shocked and confused. He had always known Luna was different. She learned quickly, noticed things no one else did, and sometimes even talked about dreams of flying or hearing stars whisper. But he thought it was just imagination. Now, everything was changing. He looked at Elia and asked, "Why now? Why are you here?" Elia looked up at the night sky through the window. "Because others are coming," she said, her voice quiet but serious. People who want to take her. A deep chill moved through Jack's body. The room felt darker now, heavier. He didn't understand everything. But he knew one thing for sure. Outside, the stars shone brighter than before, but Jack didn't see them. He was staring at Elia, his mind racing. What secret had his wife kept? And what kind of future was now heading straight for them? The next morning, Jack sat alone at the kitchen table. Staring at a photo of his late wife, her smile in the picture was warm and full of life. He gently touched the frame and whispered, "What did you keep for me, Emily?" His mind was full of questions, fear, and anger. He had always trusted her completely. Never imagined she had a secret this big. But now, with Elia sleeping in the next room and Luna in danger, he needed answers. Jack remembered an old box Emily used to keep in the attic. She told him not to touch. It said it was personal. Full of old memories, back then, he respected her privacy. But now, everything had changed. He climbed up into the attic, coughing from the dust in the corner behind a pile of old clothes. He found the metal box, still locked. He broke the tiny latch with a screwdriver and slowly opened it. Inside were papers, old photos, and a small black data chip. The photos were strangely standing next to aliens. Smiling in one, Jack saw a younger Elia beside her. Healthy and strong, she looked different back then. With bright skin and sharp eyes, the papers were reports, full of technical words and symbols Jack didn't understand. But the chip had a symbol on it, the same one from the pendant. He took it down to his old work tablet and inserted it. The screen flickered, then lit up. A message played. Recorded by Emily herself, Jack, her voice said softly, "If you're watching this, something has happened." Jack's hands trembled as he listened. Emily explained that years before they met, she was part of a secret human-alien research team. Their job was to study ancient alien tech found deep in the galaxy. That's where she met Elia, a powerful elder from a peaceful alien race. They became close like sisters, but the project was dangerous, and some humans wanted to use the tech for war. Emily and Elia stopped them, but they made enemies, powerful ones. "I left that life behind when I met you," Emily said in the recording. "But I knew they might come back one day, for me or for our daughter." Jack stared at the screen, his heart pounding. "She's not fully human," Emily said. "She carries something inside her, something ancient, something that must never fall into the wrong hands." The message ended with a final line. "Protect her, Jack. Protect Luna, no matter what." He sat in silence for a long time. Everything made sense now. Yi's arrival, Luna's strange dreams, the pendant. His daughter wasn't just special, she was chosen. And now, those enemies might be looking for her. When he told Elia about the message, she wasn't surprised. "I wanted to tell you," she said gently, "but I needed you to remember her truth on your own." Jack looked at her, full of both anger and understanding. "I deserve to know," he said. "Yes," Elia replied, "but now you do. And we must move fast." Jack nodded slowly. "What's coming next?" He asked. Elia looked out the window, her eyes sharp. "Old footsteps are returning," she said. "They've already landed on this planet. And they're searching." Jack felt fear crawl up his spine. "Who are they?" he asked. Elia paused before answering. "They call themselves the Seekers," she said. "They don't care about peace. They only want power. They believe Luna holds a key. one that can open the vault of echoes. Jack frowned. What's that? It's a place, Elia said, hidden in the stars. Full of ancient knowledge and weapons, if they get there first. They could control the galaxy. Jack stood up. Pacing the room, his hands were shaking again. How do we stop them? He asked. Elia replied. We must leave this place. Go to the mountains beyond the colony. There is someone there who can help Luna understand her gift. Jack looked toward Luna's room, where she was still sleeping. She looked so small, so innocent, but now? She carried a future far bigger than any child should. That night, Jack packed a small bag. Some food, water, warm clothes, and the pendant. Elia took only her staff and a map carved into stone. They would leave before sunrise as Jack tucked Luna into bed. She looked up at him and said, Daddy, I had a dream again. Jack sat beside her. Heart tight. What dream, sweetheart? I was flying through stars, she said, and a voice told me. You must be brave soon. Jack kissed her forehead. Holding back tears, you already are, he whispered. You already are. Outside, far away in the shadows of the colony. A ship landed silently, its doors opened. And tall figures stepped out, dressed in dark armor. One of them held a device glowing with the same symbol as the pendant. It beeped once, blinking toward Jack's house. The Seekers had arrived, but Jack Elia. And Luna would be gone by morning. The race had begun, and every step would count from now on. They left before dawn, moving quietly through narrow alleys while the colony still slept. Jack carried Luna in his arms for a while. Then she walked beside him as the sun rose weak and pale. Elia led the way with a slow, steady step, her stone map hidden inside her robe. The cold morning air bit at Jack's face, but his heart burned with fear and resolve behind them. The Seekers searched with machines that sniffed the air for life and old marks. The device that blinked in the night had sent a signal, and now many eyes watched the colony for a small family on the run. Jack glanced back once and saw a shadow in the distance. A tall shape moving too smoothly for a human. He tightened his grip on Luna's hand, and she squeezed back with trust that made his throat ache. They passed broken markets and sleeping dogs. Everyone looked like strangers who could not help them. Jack wished he could tell someone, but who would believe him? An old alien, a child with a secret, and a man with a broken past. Elia kept walking as if the weight of many years and many stories were in her steps. She hummed a quiet tune that felt like a shield against fear. The tune eased Luna's small breaths and made Jack remember Emily's lullabies long ago. As they left the colony, the land turned rough and wild. Piles of rusted machines rose like little mountains. The path to the highlands was narrow and full of old oil and glass. Elia warned them to move fast. The Seekers could cover ground with their ships and hunters. Jack felt each word as a drumbeat. Move. Hide. Survive. Soon the weather changed. Wind picked up sharp, and a low fog rolled across the plains. It hid their small group like a blanket. But fog gave danger too. It made sounds strange and close. Every twig sounded like a footstep. Elia stopped suddenly and put her hand on Jack's arm. She lifted her face to the sky and listened. Then she whispered, "They are near." Jack looked around, heart racing, and saw tracks resets, heavy and made by boots that did not match any human tread. The Seekers left marks like knives. They cut paths to find what they wanted. Jack's legs trembled, but he swallowed the fear and followed Elia deeper into the waste. Luna held a small stuffed toy, but she also watched the sky with new eyes. She repeated one short word she had said in sleep. Brave and Jack felt both pain and pride. As the day moved on, the Seekers closed in. A dark drone hummed above like a wasp. Elia used old signs and hidden paths that only elders of her race remembered. She climbed smooth stones and moved through gaps that hid them from normal view. Once or twice, they had to wait in the shadow of rusted tanks, their breaths held and small. A seeker patrol passed like a storm, its armor glinting cold. Jack wanted to run, but Elia had him crouch. She pulled a thin cord from her robe and put it to Luna's pulse. It blinked green, then blue, as if the child's heart was a light they could not see. "She is hidden by the old gift," Elia whispered. For now, that small hope kept them steady. But hope and fear both burned at the same time. They climbed a ridge and found a cave mouth half hidden by thorn and metal. Elia said it was a safe place for a while, inside the cave. The air was cool and smelled like earth. Jack set their small bag down and tried to calm his hands. Luna pressed close and drew a line on the dirt with a stick. She drew a circle and then a star inside it. The symbol was like the pendant his wife wore. It made him cry quietly. Elia sat by the cave wall and spoke low of old wars and debts that never die. She said the Seekers had hunters who used machines to read the soul, not only the body. They used old scars on memories and old marks to track what they wanted. Jack shivered. He felt hunted like a small animal. Yet he also felt a strange courage growing inside him. This was no longer only about fear. It was about the right to keep his child safe. He would not let the past take her. They did not rest long. Because the Seekers were clever and would not wait long before searching caves. So they left at dusk. Elia guided them along a narrow river that sang under stones. Near the river, they met another traveler, a woman with quick eyes and a warm but tired face. She offered them food without many questions. Jack felt thankful and guarded. Elia nodded to the woman in a way that showed old friendship. The woman, Asha, whispered that she owed a debt to Elia from long ago. She said she could help them reach the mountain pass. But the help had to cost safety only if they trusted. Jack thought of all he had left. Trust was thin, but he had no choice. They moved at night, guided by stars and Asha's maps. And the Seekers were always one step behind. One night their path was cut by a patrol that had found fresh tracks. Elia pushed them toward a narrow ledge along the cliff. The ground crumbled under Jack's boot and Luna screamed. A Seeker's light poured across the rock like a net. Jack grabbed Luna and fell hard. Asha reached out and pulled them up with hands that burned. They ran with breath burning like fire. Behind them, the patrol shouted with voices. Like metal, the sound of boots drew closer. And Jack felt he could not run another step. Then Elia turned and planted her staff into the ground. The staff glowed with a silver pulse that sent a ripple through the air. For a moment, the hunters hesitated as if the air had weight. That moment was all they needed. They dove into a shadow under a broken wall. The Seekers passed like a river, but did not see them. When the danger passed, Jack's legs shook and he felt old. He looked at Elia and asked how she had done that. She only smiled a tired smile and said, "Old tricks and a promise." Jack held Luna close and felt both the weight of the chase and the stubborn light that would not let them fall. In the distance, the Seeker ship left a red trail and the night swallowed it. They kept moving because the chase had changed them from hunted to fighters. Every step a choice, every breath a vow. The wind was sharp as a blade as they left the last of the safe paths. Ahead stretched the empty wastes, miles of broken stone, ash-colored sand, and the bones of machines long forgotten. The sun hung low behind red clouds, and the air buzzed with silence. Jack carried Luna on his back for part of the way, while Elia walked slowly ahead. Each step, steady and sure like she had walked this path 1,000 years ago. Asha followed behind, her eyes always scanning the horizon for movement. The farther they got from the colony, the stranger the world became. Rusted towers leaned like crooked trees, Half-buried ships poked through the sand like the ribs of dead whales. The old world had fallen here, and the ground still remembered. Jack felt it in his boots, in his chest. In the air, this place was not quiet. It was holding its breath, waiting. By night, they huddled under broken solar panels or inside the hollow bellies of machines. Luna would fall asleep holding Jack's hand, and he would stay awake listening to Elia tell stories of the Vault of Echoes, of a time when her people lived with humans in peace, of a promise that had been broken by those who now hunted them. She said Luna's gift came from that age and that her mind carried something more than memory. It carried light, knowledge, power, older than stars. Jack didn't understand it all. But he knew one thing: his daughter had been born for something much greater than a quiet life in the colony. And now that gift was drawing the darkness toward them. Every morning brought danger closer. The Seekers were still behind them, and they had begun using sky drones that hummed like angry bees overhead. One morning they woke to a flashing light far in the distance's signal beacon. Blinking in code, Asha swore and said the Seekers had set traps in the wastes. Jack asked why, and she said coldly, "Because they know the path we must take." They had no choice but to turn toward the cliffs to the east. A longer and harder path, but one the Seekers might not expect. As they walked, Luna began acting strange. She whispered to herself, stared at the sky, and once said, "The stars are watching." Jack worried she was sick. But Elia placed a hand on the girl's forehead and said softly, "She is waking." That frightened Jack more than anything. But Elia would not explain the next day. The sky turned greenish-gray, and a storm rolled in fast. Lightning danced along the horizon like wild spirits. They found shelter in an old cargo tunnel buried beneath the rocks. Inside was dark, wet, and full of echoes. The walls still hummed with forgotten power, and lights flickered weakly overhead. Luna touched one wall, and to Jack's shock, the entire hallway lit up. One by one, lights blinked to life with a warm golden glow. Asha stared in disbelief. "That's impossible," she said. "This tech has been dead for decades." Elia only nodded and whispered, "The vault remembers its children." Jack didn't understand. But it felt like the world itself was watching them now, and not all of it was hostile. In that tunnel, they found food rations, old water packs, and a map etched into a glowing screen. It showed the way to the mountain gate just 3 days ahead. But between them and the gate lay something called the Red Divide. Elia grew quiet when she saw the name. "What is it?" Jack asked. "It's where the sky first burned," she answered. "A place touched by war and never healed. They would have to cross it at dawn, for the storms would make it deadly by afternoon." That night, Jack barely slept. He lay awake, watching Luna sleep beside him. She looked so peaceful, even as the world hunted her. He remembered when she was born, how her eyes had opened so wide, like they were already searching for something beyond the room. He had thought it was his imagination, but now he wondered if she had always known, always felt the weight of the stars calling her. The next day, they reached the edge of the Red Divide. The land there was broken and jagged, with rivers of red sand and sharp black stone jutting from the ground. The wind howled like it was alive, and the ground pulsed underfoot like it had a heartbeat. They moved quickly, careful not to draw attention. But halfway through, the worst happened. A Seeker patrol appeared from behind a ridge. Tall figures in black armor with weapons that shimmered like glass and fire. Jack grabbed Luna and ran as fast as he could. Asha threw down a smoke bomb, and Elia used her staff to send out a flash of blinding light. But the Seekers were fast, too fast. One of them fired a bolt that hit the ground near Jack's feet. Sending up a burst of fire, Jack tripped, and Luna tumbled down the slope, screaming. Elia moved like lightning. leaping down and pulling Luna into her arms just before a second blast hit. Jack scrambled after them, his heart exploding in panic. Asha tossed a flare that made the seeker machines glitch for just a second. It was enough. They ran into a deep crevice where the machines couldn't follow. The air was thick and hot, and the walls seemed to hum with pain. But they were alive, barely. They crawled into a small hidden cave and collapsed. Gasping, Jack held Luna tightly, shaking with fear and fury. Elia placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "The road grows harder now. But you are not alone." Jack looked at his daughter, still trembling but safe. And for the first time, he realized something deep in his soul. He would follow this path to the end, even if it meant facing the stars themselves. The wind outside the cave howled like a hungry beast, but inside, it was quiet, too quiet. Jack sat close to the wall, holding Luna in his arms, her breathing slow but steady. She had fallen asleep from exhaustion, but even in sleep, her fingers glowed faintly with a pale silver light. Elia knelt near the entrance, her eyes watching the shadows with care, her staff resting beside her, glowing just enough to keep them hidden. Asha sharpened a blade she had pulled from her belt, her hands calm but her jaw tight with tension. Jack couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. The ambush in the Red Divide, the way Luna had fallen, the way the seeker weapons had stopped working for a second when she screamed. It wasn't normal. It wasn't human. Something had happened in that moment, something beyond explanation. And Jack could feel it like heat under his skin. Finally, he looked at Elia and said, "No more half-truths. I need to know what she is." Elia turned to face him, her old eyes glowing softly, not with light, but with memory. "You already know, Jack," she said. "You've always known?" Jack shook his head. "I know she's special. I know she's not just a little girl," he said. "But I don't understand what's inside her, or why everyone wants her." Elia walked closer, sat beside him, and looked at Luna with deep love in her eyes. "Long ago," she began, "before humans spread to the stars, before my people hid themselves from war, there were guardians called the Starborn." Jack listened, every word wrapping around him like a storm. "They were born from both worlds," she said, "part human, part something older chosen by the vault to protect knowledge, to carry light when darkness returned." Jack whispered. "The vault. The place you mentioned before?" Elia nodded. "Yes, the Vault of Echoes," she said. "It's not just a place, it's alive. A network of memories and power, built by a race older than time. Sealed away until the galaxy was ready again." She pointed at Luna gently. "She is one of the last Starborn." Jack felt like the air had left his chest. "But she's just a child," he said. "She doesn't even know how to tie her shoes some days." Elia smiled softly. "That's why she needs you," she said. "You're her anchor, her protector. But what sleeps inside her is awakening faster than expected." Jack looked down at Luna, her hair messy, her toy bunny still tucked under her arm. "Why now?" he asked. "Why is it happening now?" Elia's face turned serious. "Because the vault has sensed the Seekers," she said. "They have found parts of it, and if they awaken it first, they will twist it into something terrible." Jack's fists clenched. "So they want to use her as a key," he said. "More than a key," Elia whispered. "She can speak to it, command it. Learn from Itand, change everything." Jack rubbed his face. Overwhelmed, "Does she even have a choice in all this?" he asked. "What if she doesn't want to be some chosen savior?" Elia looked at him with a sadness only the very old can carry. "That's why she must decide," she said. "We're not taking her to the vault to force a destiny. We're taking her there so she can choose her own." Jack stayed quiet for a long time. Holding Luna tighter, she shifted in her sleep, her mouth moving as if dreaming. Then she spoke softly, not in her own voice. but in one that echoed like it came from the sky. "I hear them," she said. "They are close." Everyone froze. Elia stood instantly, her staff glowing brighter. "She's not asleep anymore," she said. "She's listening." Luna slowly opened her eyes. Ta! And they were silver like moonlight. Jack's heart nearly stopped. "Luna," he whispered. She looked at him and smiled. But behind the smile was something deeper, older. "I saw the vault," she said. "It's calling me." Asha stepped forward, her voice firm. "Then we better get you there fast." They packed their things in silence. The cave no longer safe. Luna walked on her own now, her steps confident. The glow in her skin fading as she returned to herself, but the look in her eyes had changed. She was still his daughter, but now Jack knew she was also something more. Something the stars themselves had been waiting for. Outside, the night stretched wide and cold, and the mountains ahead rose like sleeping giants. The path would be harder now, more dangerous. But Jack no longer felt unsure. He knew who his daughter was, and he knew what he had to do: walk with her, protect her, and help her choose her own future, no matter what shadows followed them from behind. The mountains stood tall like silent watchers as Jack, Luna, Elia, and Asha climbed the final ridge. The path was narrow, the wind sharp, and the sky overhead filled with strange clouds that glowed faintly with light from 2 moons. Luna walked ahead now, her steps quiet but steady, her silver eyes calm. Jack followed closely, his heart full of fear and pride. He still saw the little girl who used to hide under the table during storms. But now she carried something ancient inside her, something that had changed everything. Behind them, the Seekers moved like shadows. Fast and silent, their ships cut across the sky like black knives, and their machines followed trails that no human eye could see. Asha kept watch with a scanning device pulled from her belt, each beep sharper than the last. "They're almost here," she whispered. "We have minutes." "Not hours." Elia pointed to a glowing stone arch at the top of the ridge, hidden among the snow and rock. "That's the gate to the vault," she said. "Once she steps through, no one can follow without her will." Jack looked at the arch, glowing faintly with symbols he'd seen before on the pendant and the walls of the cave. It pulsed like a heartbeat, calling to Luna. Luna stepped forward, but Jack grabbed her hand gently. "Are you sure you're ready?" he asked. Luna looked up at him, her voice soft but firm. "I think I've always been ready, Daddy." "I just didn't know it." Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. "I love you," he said. No matter what happens, she hugged him tightly and whispered, "I love you too, even if I change." Before they could move, the ridge exploded in a blast of red energy. The Seekers had arrived, tall and dark, their armor humming with energy. One of them stepped forward, his voice deep and cold. "Give us the girl, and you will be spared." Jack stood in front of Luna, arms spread wide. "No," he said, voice shaking. "You'll have to go through me." The Seeker raised his weapon, a strange spear glowing with crackling light. But before he could strike, Elia stepped forward, her staff raised high. The wind around her swirled, her robe fluttered like wings, and her voice rang out like thunder. "You will not touch her," she said. "Not while I draw breath." Energy burst from her staff, striking the ridge and shaking the ground. The Seekers staggered back, but they were not stopped. The leader threw his spear, and it pierced Elia's side. She gasped, falling to her knees, but even then, she did not cry out. Jack rushed to her, holding her as she bled. "Stay with me," he said. Elia smiled weakly, her voice faint. "This is my end, Jack." But her beginning. Luna stepped past them, her hair blowing in the wind, her eyes glowing bright like twin stars. She raised her small hands and whispered a word no one understood. The ground trembled, and the arch behind her flared with silver light. Beams shot into the sky, forming a circle above their heads. The vault was awakening. The Seekers moved to attack. But their weapons froze in the air. Their armor cracked. And their machines sparked and failed. Luna's voice grew louder, and the light from the arch surrounded her like a shield. She turned to Jack and said, "You have to let me go now." Jack's heart broke. But he nodded. "Just promise you'll come back." Luna smiled. "I promise." She stepped into the light. And in that moment, the air shifted. Time itself seemed to pause. The Seekers screamed as their machines were torn apart. Their bodies flung back by a force no one could see. The sky opened above the ridge, showing not clouds, but stars, real stars, shining and moving, as if the whole galaxy had come to witness her choice. The vault's voice echoed in the wind, not in words, but in feeling, peace, hope, memory, and renewal. And then, the light faded, and Luna was gone. Jack fell to his knees. Staring at the empty space where his daughter had stood, silence followed, heavy and still. Asha helped Jack carry Elia's body to the center of the ridge, where they buried her beneath stones etched with the star symbol. Days passed, the Seekers vanished. Their mission failed, the colony quiet again. But Jack remained on the mountain, waiting, hoping, and watching the stars every night. And then, one evening, as the sky turned gold and blue, a soft light appeared at the top of the ridge. Luna stepped out, older, taller, but still his daughter, her eyes full of light. Her voice calm. "I found it, Daddy," she said, "and I chose to share it." Behind her, the stars pulsed brighter, and Jack knew. This was only the beginning of a new age. The vault had returned. But it was in the hands of a child raised by love, and protected by those who still believed in kindness. Across the galaxy, a message spread. Unseen but deeply felt humanity had been tested. And through one father's love and one little girl's courage, they had been chosen to carry the light forward once more.